Speaking with the country's new top cop a little later on in the broadcast.
The Education Department has allowed the implementation of the blended learning scheme. As students and teachers bear the brunt of the extreme dry season heat. On the lighter side, a resort in Pasig is letting pets take a pool dip to cool off.
From the nation's capital, I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Chicky Verhel.
And I'm Sean Yao. The big story tonight.
Ahead of his meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden next week, President Bongbong Marcos underscores the need for the mutual defense treaty between the Philippines and the United States to evolve.
Marcos notes that the defense cooperation between the two nations need to be strengthened, especially with developments concerning security in the region.
Marcos Jr.'s statement is on the back of talks with China's foreign minister, where Beijing and Manila pledged to set up more communication lines to address maritime issues. Camille Samonte with the big story.
President Bongbong Marcos underscored the need for the Mutual Defense Treaty or MDT to evolve amid the developing security situations concerning other countries. Marcos said the MDT and the Visiting Forces Agreement will be among the topics that he will discuss with U.S. President Joe Biden during his official working visit to Washington in May.
We have to evolve it. It has to evolve dahil nag-i-evolve din, kailangan ina-adjust din natin yan dahil meron din talagang evolution, may nagbabago rin sa sitwasyon na hinaharap natin dito sa South China Sea, sa gitna ng mga pangyayari sa Taiwan, sa North Korea, lahat itong mga na medyo umiinit ang sitwasyon dito sa atin.
The bilateral meeting between Marcos and Biden will be conducted in light of the expansion of the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement by adding 4 more sites, 2 of which are facing north towards Taiwan.
Ngayon, medyo mabibigat na usapan, medyo na nagkakabitawan ng mga maanghang na salita na eh. The United States has always been our partner in terms of the special relationship between the Philippines and the United States. So yun ang pag-uusapan namin.
Over the weekend, Marcos welcomed Chinese Foreign Minister Xi Jinping to Malacanang, just around a week before his meeting with Biden. The president said the Philippines and China agreed to set up more lines of communication to resolve maritime issues in the West Philippine Sea. Marcos notes that Xi's visit was helpful as it allowed them to talk things through and continue working on strengthening the relationship between the two nations. Xi and his Philippines counterpart Enrique Manalo, meanwhile, discussed views on strategic and regional issues during bilateral talks. Manalo emphasized that Manila's relations with Beijing go beyond their differences over the South China Sea.
These differences should not prevent us from seeking ways of managing them effectively, especially with respect to the enjoyment of rights of Filipinos, especially fishermen or fisherfolk, whose livelihood and general well-being are undermined by incidents and actions in the West Philippines.
Xi, on the other hand, said China and the Philippines need to work together to continue a tradition of friendship and to deepen cooperation and properly resolve differences.
Amid the fluid and turbulent national and regional situation, a healthy and stable China-Philippine relationship is not only meeting the aspiration of our two, but also in line with common aspiration of regional countries.
Sin and Manalo also discussed some issues concerning the tensions in Taiwan. Let's bring back Camille Samonte to give us more insight on that. Camille?
Gretch, DFA Secretary Manalo reaffirmed the Philippines' adherence to the One China policy. This in response to Beijing's fears that the new EDCA sites would be used by the U.S. to interfere in the conflict between China and Taiwan. The DFA notes, though, that Manalo has also expressed concern over the escalating tensions across the Taiwan Strait. Gretch?
All right, thank you for those updates. Camille Samonte of News 5.
And there's a new top cop in town. Major General Benjamin Acorda Jr. is now the chief of the National Police. replacing Rodolfo Azurin, who retired today. Acorda is part of the Philippine Military Academy Sambisig class of 91. He and President Marcos share the same Ilocano roots, with Acorda hailing from La Union. The newly installed PNP chief has always had public service in his blood. His father was a part of the Air Force and a public attorney, while his mother was a nurse. Acorda is best known for his tenure as PNP Director for Intelligence. But before that, he also served in various posts in the Ilocos region, Metro Manila, and Mimaropa. He was also part of the CIDG in Kamanava and Region 4B and helped pioneer the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group. Acorda also has experience handling security in northern Mindanao, where he served as regional director. Last year, he led an operation against an alleged gun-for-hire group believed to be responsible for election-related violence in Lanao del Norte.
Former PNP Chief Rodolfo Azurin did not leave his post without some scathing remarks against individuals whom he said were trying to paint the PNP in a bad light. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez with a report.
Hell broke loose while many tried to dip their fingers on the issue. The PNP is now under scrutiny, but I trust our Lord and our people that justice will be on our side. In a few days, more reports will come out, and I hope my successor will be able to continue what we started and pursue this cause.
This is what former PNP Chief Rodolfo Azurin had to say on his last day on the job. The PNP is facing controversy over the alleged links of some of its men in illegal drug trade. Earlier this month, Interior Secretary Benhur Abalos claimed that there was a massive attempt to cover up police involvement in the 6.7 billion peso shabu bust last October. 49 police officers of the PNP Drug Enforcement Group are facing criminal and administrative complaints over alleged attempts to take some of the confiscated drug loot. Abalos said that some PNP generals could have something to do with the case, since some officers were seen with Police Master Sergeant Rodolfo Mayo ahead of his arrest for drug-related charges. Azurin has denied the cover-up allegations. Baguio City Mayor Benji Magalong also believes that there was no cover-up attempt on the part of the PNP. Magalong is part of the 5-man panel tasked to evaluate the record of high-ranking police officials that were asked to tender courtesy resignations.
Ako, nagtataka nga ako bakit may allegation ng cover-up. Kasi alam namin unfair. Nakita namin Sabi ko nga sa inyo, nalaman namin yung detalye So, definitely unfair.
Magalong also vouched for Azurin, saying that he left the PNP with a clean record.
So far as the Chief PNP is concerned, ako, confident ako na talagang he's standing on moral grounds, na wala siyang cover-up na ginagawa.
Azurin, for his part, is thankful for Magalong coming to their defense.
So I don't see any reason why Mayor Magalong will say that if wala siyang basis.
The 5-man advisory panel headed by Azurin recently finished its review of high-ranking police officials. The review is part of efforts to purge the PNP of officers with links to illegal drug trade.
Speaking of pending issues in the PNP, we're curious to know who will be leading the 5-man review panel now that General Azurin has retired. Pamela Vasquez is back with some updates.
Chiki, the 5-man advisory group, is pushing to have General Azurin retained as head of the committee even though he is no longer PNP chief. Just to recall, over 900 high-ranking police officials who have tendered courtesy resignations have been cleared, while at least 30 personnel are still up for verification. The panel will be finalizing its report before endorsing it to the NAPOLCOM, the DILG, and later on to President Marcos for approval. Chiki?
Thanks, Pamela.
Up next, it turns out that distance learning is not only for COVID-19 prevention. The Education Department is allowing public schools to suspend in-person classes and re-implement blended learning due to the extreme heat this dry season. More on that when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
You're watching The Big Story here on One News.
Students and teachers are having a hard time performing their duties amid the intense heat brought by the dry season. Mobile journalist Francis Orsho gives us a front seat to the story.
A student's school performance is affected by the learning environment they are in. And with the intense heat ravaging the country amid the dry season, teachers say their students are faced with the tough challenge of keeping their focus.
Yung mga bata, yung siksikan sila, tapos dadalawa lang yung electric fan. Kahit kami, minsan hinahabol namin yung hininga namin kapag kasalukuyang nagtatalakay kami.
Instead of listening to their teachers and focusing on their lessons, students tend to direct their attention to various ways of keeping cool.
Makikita mo yung yamot nila sa mukha nila kung paano gawin yung isang bagay sa sobrang init.
Those with existing illnesses like asthma are bearing the brunt of the classroom heat. Students collapsing or getting dizzy while in class have been reported in some areas as heat indices in various places across the country breach the 40 degrees Celsius mark. Adding to the problem is the lack of cooling equipment like electric fans. This is why some teachers favor the return to the blended learning scheme and to revert to the old school calendar.
Ibalik na sa blended learning. Kung paano natin ginawa sinimulan yung pandemic noon, di ba? Sumunod, ibalik na yung klase, yung normal na klase natin mula June to March.
The Education Department has taken steps to mitigate the effects of extreme heat on students. Let's find out what these are from Francis Orsho. Hi, Francis.
Sean, the Education Department acknowledged that the heat could put the learners' well-being at risk, which is why it has given the go signal for public school administrators to implement the blended learning scheme if need be. In its new memo, the DepEd specifically cited extremely high temperatures as among valid grounds for class suspensions or cancellations. Sean?
Thanks for that, Francis.
Meanwhile, water levels in 4 of Luzon's major dams continue to drop. These are the Angat Dam in Bulacan, the La Mesa Dam in Quezon City, the San Roque Dam in Cordillera, and the Caliraya Dam in Laguna. As of 6 a.m. today, water level at Angat is at 196 meters, over 15 meters below the normal high water level of 212 meters. La Mesa's water level, meanwhile, dropped by almost 3 meters, San Roque Dam by over 44 meters, and Caliraya by 1.24 meters. Pag-asa explains that aside from the high heat, another reason for the lower water level is the increased water consumption, also caused by the hot weather. Note that 97% of water consumed by Metro Manila comes from the Angat Dam. The State Weather Bureau is expecting water levels to climb slightly once the rainy season comes by May or July. However, they warn that the expected El Niño phenomenon could again cause water levels to drop.
Kung tayo po ay halimbawa nasa critical area yung ating lugar, magkakaroon po tayo ng tinatawag na mga drought. Yung interruption is magiging grabe. Ngayon lang, di ba, meron na tayong naririnig, may mga rotational na parang water interruption, no? Siguro mas magiging matagal siguro kung talagang bababa yung level ng ating pong mga pinagkukuhanan ng tubig.
President Marcos is now calling various government agencies to prepare for the looming El Niño. Marcos says among the government's preparatory measures include the creation of the Office of Water Resource Management under the Office of the President. Marcos is also eyeing the use of so-called collection pools to weather the effects of an El Niño-induced drought.
Hindi naman masasabi na yung Pilipinas ay kulang sa tubig. Pagka bumuhos ang tubig dito, talagang sobra-sobra. Ang kailangan lang natin gawin, kolektahin natin yun. Kapag dumating ang drought, kapag dumating ang El Niño, meron tayong pagkukuhanan.
The Energy Department has authorized the Occidental Mindoro Electric Cooperative to hike the province's power supply to 17 megawatts from the current 12. But this is still a far off from the province's power demand of 30 megawatts. OMECO explains the Energy Department allowed them to procure additional power supply without undergoing the competitive selection process. But because of this, the additional supply will not be covered by government subsidy, which means consumers will have to shoulder the cost of the extra load. The additional load will guarantee them 2 to 3 hours worth of power supply per day, bringing the total of hours with electricity to 7. However, this still leaves residents with up to 17 hours of power outages daily. With this, the local government of Occidental Mindoro is renewing its calls for President Marcos to fulfill his campaign promise of resolving the brownouts that will continue to plague the province. They're also pushing for the use of solar power to address supply issues.
Kung makaipon nga tayo ng mga nagsosolar ng 5 to 10 megawatts, malaking bagay yun. Sa halip na makikihati pa kami sa supply ng ng OMCPC, ay hindi na.
Up next, several OFWs have been evacuated from Sudan as the battle between rival military factions in the country rages on. More updates on that when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
You're still watching the big story here on One News. And of course, we are approaching May. This will be the peak hottest month according to Pag-asa.
I can't imagine the last time I saw the heat index climb up to more than 40 degrees Celsius. I mean, we saw temperatures, but the actual heat index to be at 43, 44, 44 to 46 to 50, the actual temperature. When was the last time you saw that?
How are you guys over the weekend? Because they said, I think last weekend was like, it reached the 50s heat index.
They projected it to hit the heat index, to be clear, to hit 50 on Saturday. But when I woke up, it was actually kind of gloomy and it started to rain.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what went on. Maybe the extreme heat could have brought on the rains because it does happen sometimes.
Well, I think we're quite lucky because we are here in an air-conditioned studio and room. But just a lot of we've seen a lot of students and teachers adjust in their own ways all over the Philippines. Some have, gone outside the classrooms, gone outdoors, set their seats apart. Some have been doing classes in the covered courts.
Right.
Just outside, to get some fresh air, to be able to adapt to taking classes in the middle of the summer.
Definitely a lot of adjustments going on. I just spoke with somebody earlier, about just 2 hours ago, and she told me her kid is actually having classes now like 3 times a week instead of every day.
Oh wow!
Because of the heat.
That's another adjustment.
Because all the other students were fainting.
Yeah. Fainting. I mean, again, the heat is something that we are used to here in the Philippines, but again, just fair warning that heat can be really debilitating. In fact, you could get heat exhaustion or even heat stroke, and it can cause death.
A lot of worries for our students, not just hunger now, but it's also the heat that they need to think about. How do you learn in the middle of that?
And remember a little earlier, Gretch, our story in Occidental Mindoro when they're now going to get 7 hours a day or 7 hours with kuryente a day instead of 4 hours a day. Can you imagine the students there?
But one thing that's good is that the president is reviewing whether they will move the school year back to how it was before. Summer season for April and May. I mean, I think we're quite lucky to have had our summers back then.
During the real quote-unquote summer season.
Right. A lot of complaints, but they were actually saying, oh, well, you want to move your summer back to summer, which is April and May, when before you were actually complaining, oh, we're going back to school in June, it's a lot of rain, a lot of water. Tapos ngayon, na you're going back to, you're in school during summer. Oh, ano nga ba talaga?
Climate change
Tama.
talaga. I think more than ever, whether or not you're a believer or a skeptic with climate change, well, definitely something's going on and causing all these disruptions to our weather. So again, fair warning to everyone to please mind the heat, load up on water, and check out Pag-asa's forecast.
Well, it really is quite something here in the Philippines. And speaking of, have you registered your SIM card? Well, with 2 days left before the deadline, more than half of users have yet to register their SIM cards. Latest data from the Department of Information and Communications Technology said almost 82 million SIMs have been registered. That's 49% of the almost 169 million subscribers nationwide. With this, telcos are warning that users might not be able to use some digital applications like mobile wallets, online shopping, and delivery apps if they don't register their SIMs. They're also reiterating their call to the DICT to extend the April 26th deadline for SIM registration.
All right, so before we go, it has been, as we have been saying, a hot couple of days and weeks, and I'm sure many of you have taken a dip to cool off. But have you forgotten about your pets? We haven't, and a resort in Pasig is actually letting our fur babies take a dip in their pool. Dog parents are digging Doggyland Pet Hotel and Resort for its unique offering. Here, you can bond with your pet dogs while cooling off. Renting out the pool starts at 3,000 pesos, which covers 1 pet dog and up to 2 pet owners. They also have air-conditioned pet rooms ranging from 600 to 1,300 pesos. According to Doggyland's owner, they want to give pets a break from their cages this summer. So like we were saying, also, how is Java? Has he ever gone for a swim?
Well, I gave him a haircut.
That works too.
That's probably cheaper than the swimming
renting
pool.
the pool. I know it's kind of pricey, but I also have shaved off my poodle's hair. I know you also have a Shih Tzu.
Yes, not my Shih Tzu, but it's the family dog. It's my sister's Shih Tzu. His hair is very long now, and we're guilty of actually forgetting sometimes to leave water. And you can see him in front of the fan, sitting in front of the fan, getting some air and probably.
I'm super curious though. I mean, as a dog expert, animal expert, Sean.
Animal expert.
Lover.
I mean, how is a dog inside the pool? Are they allowed to be with chlorinated water, or is it supposed to be like fresh water?
I always subscribe to, if I'm in the pool with chlorine, I think my dog should be able to survive it. But do check out look at that golden retriever. As we know, golden retrievers. Yeah, we have to check. Gretch, your dog is a corgi and his legs are quite short.
And then how do they clean that? After for the next user?
I guess they probably do it to some pools in the States, they allow dogs in before they clean. So it's kind of like a dog party,
right,
and then they clean it straight away,
okay.
right? But the chlorine should take care of all your germs and the usual bugs in there. But also SIM registration.
Oh,
Yeah.
reminder to people, 2 days
Oh my
left.
God.
It's easy to buy a new SIM card, but it's such a hassle to have to set up all your online banking accounts and your e-wallet. So do register your SIM cards before the April 26th deadline.
And make sure
right.
everybody in your family and your home is registered, because the GCash and the Maya and the digital wallets
Right.
all
So-
come with the
Number.
SIM
number,
card. Yeah.
Some of them are waiting. They're saying, oh, where there's a 5-day extension after April 26th. It's not exactly an extension. You can't call that an extension if actually you can't use your SIM on April 26th. You would have to register still. So,
All right.
Good reminders for tonight's newscast.
So many reminders, and that is the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more in-depth analyses. I'm Sean Yao.
the big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Chiki for Health. Stay safe, Philippines.
And I'm Gretchen Hall. We are One News, all sides, all the time.